Evening, Tony Dattino, founder chairman of the USA Memory Championship, and just excited to announce or talk about our 23rd USA Memory Championship event. If anyone would have told me in 1997 that in the year 2022 we would still be doing memory championships and struggling at times to find sponsors that really understand and comprehend the elements of memory and the fact that anyone can improve their memory given the right desire and belief that they can and the skills that they would be able to learn and then apply or practice and do the exercises for that work. I wouldn't believe some of the things that we've experienced over 23 years. But what I wanted to talk about tonight was the is the event and the preparation for it. The amount of work that gets done by a team of people that are behind this that are just so supportive and so wonderful. But the person that does the most, that really gets the focus and the attention, is Karen Pinson, who's my chief operating officer, who really does the registrations and getting the people registered properly and getting the right information that we need from each of them, that we then get press requests and the request of interviewing certain people by age and sex and maybe discipline or who might be the most interesting, and just all that work just in the registration that she does, and she's flawless at it. And we've learned how to do this online and make it easier for the mental athletes. And so the mental athletes, we talk about the mental athletes, how years ago, Tatiana Cooley, one of our early USA Memory champions, won the event, was being interviewed by Sports Illustrated, and we were having a breakfast at a cafe in New York City, and here was a writer for Sports Illustrated coining the phrase, "Oh, these are mental athletes," and so we've loved the term, we've kept that, and so that's been one of the things that Karen does a lot of work with in terms of talking with the mental athletes, getting emails and questions and things. So who even realizes the first, I always call it the courage, and the fact that the mental athletes that agree to participate in this are already winners in the bigger picture of what I call the game of life, and not worrying about who wins and who doesn't win. It's just that just being able to participate in it has already made you an exclusive, rare individual just in the competing, and just the work that Karen goes through and what she learns about each of the mental athletes that build what I call the story of what keeps us, my team of people, consistently motivated and engaged and wanting to make a difference in people's lives, which this event clearly does. And I don't know that many of the people that have watched this on YouTube and on TV and on different broadcasts we've had over the years really have any perspective on just the people who went through this and their personalities and who they're like, other than they're not nerds, and they're not people that just sit there all day long and study memory techniques and skills, but have chosen to make that difference. Uh, One of the events that we have that does take a significant amount of time, that Karen does, and I have to commend her for the work she does, is what we had to do from MIT when we did our 20th event. We had Jim Carroll, who was one of our advisors to our team in terms of the games and things, that suggested we needed to put something in there with long-term memory, so that we demonstrate to people that this is just not something where you show people information and data in the immediate and then they have a minute or 5 minutes to recall, but in fact that they've learned something through these skills that we apply from short term, and they're able to take those skills and bring them into long-term memory. And so in the 20th event we had up at MIT, which was just a rousing success, we had over 450 people sitting in the Kresge Auditorium, and we had the head of their science department there and the head of the McGovern Institute, and we had Robert Ajamian, who's been a neuroscience supporter for years from MIT. I had one of the greatest events of all time, and that was an event we called long-term memory, and we gave them 3,500 bits of information, and they had to pull that forward. Well, we're doing that this year. Obviously, we've done it last year. We're doing it again in the coming events for the 23rd Memory Championship. But the amount of work that Karen Pinson has to do, first of all, with our team members of Lumosity and MIT and my team with the Memory Enterprises, uh, we have to pick categories, and we want to find interesting categories or educational categories, a bit of science included in it, a bit of practicality and what I call current culture, and maybe something as it relates to things that we know or things that would interest us. So we've used Academy Award winners at the Oscars. We've used sports Hall of Fame, interesting data and things. We've used periodic tables. And so, what are the categories that we do? Now, we get the team to agree on the categories, and then somebody's got to go get the data and put the worksheets together in terms of the data bits that are involved and go find them and then post them and put them all together. Well, Karen does all that work, and it's an amazing amount of work she's got to go through and just pulling the data together. Imagine the amount of work that she goes through and just, okay, what categories? Now, where do I go find that data? So this year's been no exception. We've elected the categories. She's gone out and found through various sites, and she's a technical genius when it comes to that in terms of finding information. And so I'm not pre-announcing the categories. I will announce them on Friday since we're not giving anyone an edge, and the data will go back out to them by Friday. And so in my Friday broadcast, I will tell you what this year's categories are. But it's been a lot of fun working on it, and we've put our heads together and off we're going. But the amount of time that she's got, and that's just getting the data. But now let's go to the next piece. Well, what questions? So we have three levels of questions. We have what we call really easy ones. You just need to have a one-for-one data bit. But then we go higher level and we say, okay, let's mix fields together. And then the third category and say, let's throw three data bits at them for the third level of questions. So the amount of time and work that she puts into the thoughtfulness of the questions that we're going to pose to people so that they're really testing their long-term memory from recall. So and it's not that they just remembered it bit for bit, but how do they cross that information? And I'll talk more about that on Friday after we've announced what the events are and tell you exactly what that means. But the point of the matter is, we're not just giving them data and then saying just regurgitate the data. We're giving them data and we're testing comprehension and the utilization of that data. We're testing the creativity that they've got to go through. We're testing the ability to mix data fields and then be able to comprehend it in a useful way and then be able to respond. I think if we understood what the categories of a Jeopardy were or some of these game shows that are trivia and they understood what the skills were that these people are deploying, it'd be amazing. It'd be a phenomenal study. Well, just picture the work that Karen has to do to then get those questions. She throws them back out to different members of the committee and says, hey, anybody have any ideas on the questions we can ask with these data fields? And then we put the team to work, and then we're back to, okay, now it's comprehensive. Last year from our five-time champion, Nelson Dellis, who will be doing some of the work on YouTube at the Full Sail University studio that we're being at on October 1st. So that's the long-term memory event. And then, of course, we have the Tea Party. Now, Tea Party, we think, well, first of all, we got to go find five people, right? We got to find five people. The second thing we've got to do is, well, what's the information that we think would be interesting to an audience watching it, but also an audience that has to retain it and listen to it. So obviously we've thought about, names of people. Obviously, our Names and Faces event is all about that. We go through list of information, so we may ask them their favorite foods or their favorite hobbies and things they like to do in their free time. We certainly want to know what their address is, and we might want to put some numbers in there. So we integrate a series of different memory skills into a Tea Party event that really demonstrates that our mental athletes have really got a broad understanding of names and faces, lists of data, which we talk about remembering lists of to-do items, We talk about numbers. So we throw a bunch of numbers at them, and they have to demonstrate their ability to comprehend and learn and retain numbers. And so we have got to put all that information together. We get that onto databits so that they have a way of retaining it, and then we have to put that together on mind maps. So we demonstrate the usefulness of mind maps as a phenomenal tool that we teach people and we bring back. So there's a whole diversity of work that has to go into just how we gain 5 people. And now what we do is we pre-record that so we have consistency, and Full Sail will be doing that work for us. So those are just a couple of events that we go through, and I'll talk more and more about the events and how we're moving forward as the coming weeks of my Live with Tony Facebook broadcasts go, and how we also convert that over to YouTube so that we get the combo of Facebook and YouTube. So that's a bit of what I want to talk about. More coming. I'll certainly discuss the long-term memory events with you on Friday, and let you know what some of the information is that our mental athletes have to retain and recall on October 1st. So with that, you have a good evening. By the way, you may not recognize where I am right now, but actually I brought this one shirt that I wear, but I am up in Larchmont, New York. The love of my life is going through several steps of eye surgery, so I've left Windermere, Florida for a bit, though beautiful weather we're having here in New York, and listening to the trees and looking at the work they're doing on our local street. But it has been fascinating to watch how they rip up a street and they're repaving it. But anyways, I'm in Larchmont, New York for a bit, and look forward to you again on Friday when I do my Friday Live with Tony.